This is Dr. Michael McGee, an emergency medicine doctor. Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions about your education first, and then a little bit about your experience.
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, so you went to UIC for your undergraduate, right?
No, I went to Purdue,
Okay.
Purdue University for my undergraduate school. And I left Purdue and went to University of Illinois in Chicago for a master's degree.
Okay.
That's probably why you got UIC. So I went there to get a master's degree in public health, specifically in epidemiology and biostats. Okay. We look at numbers, we look at epidemics, and we analyze them, and we try to come up with ways to prevent certain things from happening. Okay. So I did that, and then after that, I went to Rush Medical School in Chicago.
Okay.
And after that, I did my training at NYU in New York, where I did a residency in emergency medicine. And when I finished NYU, my first job was at Emory and Grady in Atlanta. And then I decided to come back to Indiana after my mother got ill, and I came back to take care of my grandmother. So I've been at Methodist Hospital since 2005. Yeah. And within a year coming back, I became the associate director. And then within a year, I became the medical director. And at that time, I started my own group called Northwest Emergency Associates. So we had our own group here at Methodist Hospital in Gary and Maryville up until 2019, when I sold my group to another group called Vituity, which is who I work with now. And I sold my group and I became a partner with them. Okay. So I am now a partner with Vituity and an ER doc, but I'm also the national chair for NMA, which is the National Medical Association. I'm their chair for violence prevention, as well as for ACEP, which is American College of Emergency Physicians. They have a violence prevention committee that I'm the chair of as well. So those are all the hats that I wear at this time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I have some questions about your hats a little later on. But why are you so passionate about like violence prevention? Because when I was doing a little research on you, I saw it was a couple of things on there, and especially with POP and everything. Is that coming from emergency medicine, or is it something else?
So it's twofold. Number one, as I said before, I have a master's in public health, specifically epidemiology and biostats. We look at the numbers and we analyze them. And I've always been involved with violence prevention. It's been my passion. And public health allows you to take care of populations of people, not just individuals. As a physician, we take care of individuals. You come in ill, we take care of you. But as an epidemiologist and a physician who takes care of those kind of patients, you can change a whole community of people. And that's what we've been trying to do now, right? Because violence is an epidemic. And so we try to change our youth to let them see the light that violence is preventable, and that we can do some things to prevent, bad things from happening. Violence tends to escalate. Now people have access to guns, and now somebody gets shot or killed. And where did this come from? Well, for me, I grew up in every project in Gary, in Indiana, to a single parent mother, and I used to fight all the time. I used to, get in trouble a lot, and I've been shot at 3 times in my life. And so for me, I was always the good guy who would take care of someone who was getting beat up or in a fight or being bullied. So I was altruistic, meaning I liked helping people. And so as I got older, I saw that times have changed. Now you can't get into a fight with someone and then a week later you guys are friends. Nowadays, you get into a fight and then someone gets upset or their feelings hurt and now they try to shoot you. And so I go out and try to prevent it just from all the experience that I had in the past. It's something that I want to prevent now. So that's kind of where my passion comes from. And then when I became an ER doc in Gary, Indiana, the first time I started my program, POP, which means Project Outreach Prevention, it was when I saw a young man who had gotten into a fight the day before, and now he was a sophomore in high school on the football team. He was at practice, and the guy that he got into a fight with saw him, and he put out a gun and shot him 3 times while he was on the football field in his clothes, in his equipment. And so he came into our ER and he had his football equipment on, and it was just sad to me that this was going on. And then he survived, and we talked, and I said at that point I want to try to do something. So that's when I started POP, Project Outreach Prevention. So I would go and talk to kids in the Boys and Girls Club, kids in different organizations. And I would take police officers with me, and we talk about violence and the repercussions of violence and what happens if you are in trouble or kill somebody. And so now here we are several years later, and we're doing some amazing stuff with our program where we're not only in Northwest Indiana, but also in Chicago. And we talk to parents and adults about violence, about prevention, and about, intervention, and also about, trying to stop it before it happens. And so it's been gratifying. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all began.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how you're with Vituity now because of your epidemiology degree.
Well, no, Vituity, epidemiology had nothing to do with that. It just was a second degree. But I sold my group to Vituity, which is a large ER group, and they basically came in and took over. I became a partner, and that's who I get my paycheck from right now. Okay. So I work with them. They're like a large corporation, and they provide staffing for a lot of different emergency departments around the country. Even Howard University, Howard Hospital, they are the group that runs their hospital for the ER. And even for Mount Sinai in Chicago, they run the ER as well. And so they're all over the place.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And then on LinkedIn, it said that you were a CEO and president of multiple organizations. Yeah.
So as I said before, a year after I finished up my training at NYU, I was still on staff at Emory and Grady, but I was also working here at the hospital in Methodist. And an opportunity came where I was the associate director, and the group that I was with left. So when they left, I went to the administration and said, hey, give me the opportunity to put a group together, and I'll put a group together, and I'll run the group. And so I put the group together, and we called ourselves Northwest Emergency Associates, and I was the CEO of the group. So I was the boss, but also the medical director for the ER and also for EMS, which is the paramedics. And then in 2018, I had an opportunity to open up my own urgent care in Chicago. So we opened up Premier Urgent Care in Chicago in Hyde Park on the south side. And it was all Black owned. It was myself, Dr. Rutland, who's a trauma surgeon, and Dr. Richardson, who's another ER doc. And we owned the business, and we operated for at least 5 years. And we just closed down this past February. So yeah, so I was the CEO of two businesses. One, the ER group, and then after that, the urgent care in Hyde Park.
How do you balance so many hats?
So, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of desire. It takes a lot of hard work. And I was always good at multitasking. As an ER doc, you have to see 5, 6, 7, 8 patients at a time. You got to be able to, engage from one situation to another. And I was always good at organizing, even when I was in college or in medical school. I would organize events and have people coming out while still doing well in school. Some people, it can be overwhelming, but for me, I was able to multitask. And so I find my balance. I know how to do those things, but I also know how to relax. And I practice martial arts, so I meditate. So I do a lot of different things so that the average stress that a lot of people have happen to them, I don't necessarily get it because I know how to have my health and wellness, but also manage different things and be pretty successful at it. And I try to aim for excellence in everything I do. So it's just, a skill that I learned as I was growing up, and it carries over now. Yeah.
Thank you. When did you realize that you wanted to become a doctor?
So my mother was a nurse, and we grew up in every project in Gary. And like I said before, even when I was younger, I was always altruistic, meaning I like helping people. My grandfather lived to be 100, I think he's 101. But as he got older, I would always help him. And so even when I was in high school, I didn't know the route to take. Even though my mother was a nurse, I didn't know any doctors. I didn't have any mentors. So I had a little bit of exposure to the hospital, but I didn't really know what route to take, which is why when I went to college for engineering, and I went to Purdue. And if I could do it all over again, I would not have chosen Purdue. It was not a school that was good for people who want to go to medicine. I probably would have went to an HBCU, like Xavier or somewhere like that, or would have went to a school that had a medical school where we could have a pre-med program. And so for me, I was majoring in engineering at first. And then I decided, hey, I really like taking care of people. I really want to try to go into the medical field. And so at that point, I changed my major from engineering to biology and psychology. And I did really well at that point. And then even then, I didn't really know what route to take. It wasn't until I transferred from Purdue and I was at a satellite campus in Hammond, Indiana, because at that point I decided, okay, look, I'm in my third year here at Purdue. I had pledged to fraternity. My grades had gone down. My mother said, look, if you're serious about being a doctor, you got to stop hanging out, stop having a lot of fun and be serious. So I said, okay, I'm going to go home. I'm going to get a job in the hospital, which I did. I got a job in the hospital right where I'm working at Methodist in Central Supply, which is what you did, right? You were working there for a little while. And so it made me get closer to my dreams. I was able to see doctors here. I was able to see that, hey, I can actually do this. And then when I transferred over to Purdue, I got really focused. I studied harder. I started taking martial arts again. I got very disciplined. And I made the dean's list every time. And I did really well with my grades. And also, I joined a program called the Ronald McNair. Ronald McNair was the first Black astronaut that flew on the Challenger that exploded, and he passed away. But they had a program for students who want to go into graduate school, and I wanted to go to medical school. So we would travel and go to different medical schools. And I got to talk to medical students and saw that, hey, I can do this. So I really wanted to do it. And that allowed me to see the light even more. And so I became more focused and I did much better. So all those, if I can say, was there a single thing that made me want to be a doctor? No. It was probably a realization that I can actually do it. Because at first, if you don't have any access, my mom wasn't a doctor. I didn't have a lot of doctors in my family. So I didn't know what route to take. So if you can see something, you can be something. So with me seeing other medical students and me getting to the hospital and seeing other Black doctors here, I felt that I can do it. So that's what helped me make that decision. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. What advice would you give to somebody like me about to go into my undergraduate?
So I think I've given this advice before using a program that we did. Do as many programs as you can, like what I did with Ronald McNair. There's any program where you can do a week or a day or whatever, a summer, do it. Because now you can not only see that, hey, you really want to do it, you get exposure to medicine, you get exposure to medical students, you get exposure to being in a hospital, and then you get advice that can help you navigate getting into medical school successfully. And it gives you the desire to get there. But most importantly, it gives you your motivation. So when you go to write your letter to say, hey, this is what I want to do, you can say, hey, I hung out with Dr. McGee in the ER. I actually did a program with Indiana University where I went to go and I met some medical students. We learned CPR. We learned how to stop the bleed. We were in the hospital on Friday. We was in the ER. We went to the operating room. All those things are going to set you aside from the person who has straight A's who didn't get that exposure. Mm-hmm. So the person that got straight A's may not really want to do medicine. They may be doing it because their daddy is a doctor or their mother's a doctor. So when people are looking at your application, they want to see, what were the steps you took to get to where you want to be? Did you do a summer program? Did you go and meet some medical students? Did you shadow a doctor? Mm-hmm. So if you've done all those things, then they're going to want you more because it shows you truly motivated. Your grades may not be the best when you get to college, but if you show that, hey, you were there, you're persistent, and you really want to be a doctor and take care of people, and you have motivation to show for it, and you can write about it, then that's the route to go. Okay. So all those things are very helpful to do. So I encourage you to engross yourself in any of those things. And I also gave all the students who I encounter a one-pager of how to get into medical school. And it talks about going from freshman in high school to a medical doctor. It tells you the path you should take. And every student should use that because I created it by talking to all kinds of medical students from Northwestern, from University of Chicago, from students that I've encountered from Indiana University, and it's real life good information that can help you navigate getting into medical school.
I noticed when talking to a lot of doctors and medical students that they work somehow in the hospital during their undergrad so that they can get exposure and hours with patients before they apply to medical school.
They don't necessarily work. They can volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
They can shadow, where you go and follow the doc around. They can get a job, and sometimes you get a job, you doing what? You're working.
Right.
So you may not necessarily get that exposure, but if it gets you into the hospital, you got to be assertive. And even if you a candy striper or you working in central supply, at some point when you see a doctor walking the hall, say, "Hey, I'm Mike McGee. I want to be a doctor. You mind if I come and hang out with you and see what you do?" It may not even be a profession you like. It may not. You may want to go into OB, and it's somebody who's doing, pediatrics. Mm-hmm. Just get the opportunity, and then when you meet that person, ask him. Say, "Hey, do you know any OBGYN docs?" Then now let them introduce you to someone. So you got to use your voice as a student. Sometimes, we as Black people and minorities feel that we don't belong here. We have imposter syndrome. Whereas other kids who are, used to being around doctors, they're more emboldened. They go and ask for what they want. And sometimes we get left out. So I can, the advice I can give is be assertive, ask for what you want. Even if you're a quiet person, you can be quiet and still say, "Hey, my name is this. Do you mind if I hang out with you?" And then if you think you want to be a surgeon, if you think you want to be an ER doc, you tell whomever you know. It could be your own pediatrician. Say, "Hey, do you know any surgeons?" Yeah. Then have them make the call for you, and then that will get you in. Because in order to get into medical school or physician assistant school or any of these programs, you have to shadow. They have you do that to make sure you know what you're getting into before you do it. So I encourage everyone to do that.
Thank you. Was there ever a day that made you question whether you should be a doctor or not?
Yeah. So I had a day that made me question it, and then shortly after, something that reconfirmed. Mm-hmm. And this was the day when I was driving home from my cousin's graduation in Nashville, Tennessee, from Tennessee State. I got a call. My mother, who was a single parent mom, who was a nurse for 30 years at Methodist, had been having some abdominal pain in February, and I told her to get a CAT scan. She got a CAT scan and just showed a fibroid. And then I told her that sometimes fibroids can have stuff going on, so get an ultrasound. So I thought she got the ultrasound, but she didn't. Then in March or April, she called me asking for pain medicines because she was having this bad pain at night. And then I found out that she hadn't gotten an ultrasound yet. And the reason why is because she didn't have insurance. She had resigned early because she was trying to open up her own assisted living facility. And needless to say, I told her, "Look, I'm going to pay for the ultrasound." She got the ultrasound in May. And when she came to my graduation from NYU, she had lost a lot of weight. So I knew something wasn't right because my mother was a pretty nice sized woman. And so when she got the ultrasound, it showed that she had a mass on her uterus. So then I told her that the doctor told her she needed to have surgery because she has a mass. And so in July, when she had gotten the surgery, she called me to tell me what the surgery showed. And when I spoke to the surgeon, he told me that she had terminal ill uterine cancer. And the kind that she had was the worst kind that anyone could have. When you find out you have it, it's already spread it everywhere. So I'm driving back in the mountains, and when she told me that, it kind of, messed up my whole day and my whole world. And I almost broke down crying and almost had an accident. I had to pull over. And so, yeah, that was the worst day because I'm thinking I've gone through all this, went through, undergrad, medical school, and now finishing up my training. And now I find out before I even start my job, my mom is probably going to die on me. And at that time, we thought she had a year. And so that was tough. And that first day at work, which was the next day, I couldn't sleep at all that night. In that first day at work, I met this patient who came in, and their blood pressure was low, and they had an irregular heartbeat, and called atrial fibrillation, which you know about because I just showed it to you. And the patient was a pastor. She was a Caucasian lady, and she was a pastor. And I'm new. This is my first day, so I shake her hand, tell her who I was, and she said, "I'm praying that everything goes well." I said, "Ma'am, I'm praying as well." And so I gave her all the stuff, and nothing worked. And then I finally gave her a medicine that worked, and her heart rate got better, and her blood pressure improved. And technically, when it happens, you can send someone home. It's just that I ordered another test, and I said, "Look, before you go, I want to do another test because I just want to make sure nothing else is going on because I can't explain why your heart rate was beating so fast." I actually thought she had a blood clot. And so the test I gave was a test to let me know, is this a possible blood clot? Well, when I got the result back from the test, it was elevated. So I said, I got to get a CAT scan to make sure you don't have a blood clot. So needless to say, when I got the test, it came back that she had an aortic aneurysm that was dissecting, which means your aorta, which is a large vessel in your heart, is busting open and you can bleed out instantaneously. And so she should have had chest pain. She didn't have any of that. And so from that point on, we sent her to cardiovascular surgery. She had surgery and she lived. And she went and told everybody, my chairman and everyone, that I saved her life. So it was very rewarding. I think it was God's way of letting me know I was where I needed to be. So, and then believe it or not, that same week, 2 days later, I met two women who had been going to see their doctor who both had uterine cancer that had been missed. And I caught it early because I ordered an ultrasound. And so both these ladies had the same thing my mother had, but they caught it early and they did well. So, yeah, so, God puts things on your plate. And sometimes you can't explain why things happen. But then sometimes, most of the time, God would tell you, you're right where you need to be when you're there. And so it let me know that. So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing. That's a good story.
Thanks. Yeah.
You said you were a good student and you're undergraduate in medical school. How did you study and make sure that you...
I was an okay student. I wasn't always okay. I graduated top 10% of my class, 29 out of 335 people. You were number 2. I went to a high school in Gary that did not prepare me well. Even though I was up in the upper 10%, well, what does that compare to when you at a school where everybody been prepared to go to medicine or go to a hard school all their life? Yeah. And so it was a rude awakening for me. Coming from a predominantly Black school, I wasn't prepared. I didn't know how to study. That's why my first semester in engineering, I had an F average. And so I took study courses. I learned the SQ3 method that I taught you guys on that one-page paper. Okay. SQR3, it tells you to survey, to make questions, to read, to recite, and to teach someone. And so over time, I mastered that to the point whereas when I got to medical school, I could take a whole bunch of information, make it my own by rewriting stuff, and then learn it really quickly and really well, and then teach it to someone, and then go on to the next topic. Because in medical school, you get a 1 month of work is equivalent to a year of high school, of a year of college. So you think that you get a lot of material in college. Imagine getting all that material and you moving on to another whole different section after completing a month of a 1 year stuff crammed into 1 month. And now you got to go on to the next stuff. And then now you got to remember all that because now they test you. So you got to be able to process a lot of information and learn it and then know it in order to, and then decipher and interpret. A lot of exams we take, you have to think one step ahead. And that's how these exams are now. They're kind of reading exams, but they expect you to be able to integrate all the information you learn so that you can answer the question appropriately. So that's what helped me, just becoming a better, finessing my study habits and getting better at it. So that when I sit down to study, I'm really studying and not wasting time. Yeah. All the stuff I gave you on that one-page paper that you got to go take another look at. Mm-hmm. Okay. And use it. Try it now while you're in high school. Mm-hmm. Your hardest classes, use that SQR3 method. And for your hardest class, and I mark my words, you're gonna know it, and you're gonna do really well on your exams. Okay.
Because I think going to Hillcrest, it's also predominantly black, and then a lot of the students, like our top 10 isn't full of 4.0s and stuff like that. Like
Right.
it's people with like C's and stuff like that, and they're still in the top 10. So it's like kind of hard thinking about like grade inflation and things like that. And then when I go to a bigger university and I'm going up against people that come from schools like Stevenson and stuff like that, it is.
So that's why you also got to decide where you want to go your first year. Do you want to go to a big university where you're going to be competing with a whole bunch of people? Do you want to go to a smaller place where now you can get your study skills down, make sure you know material, and then go somewhere? Mm-hmm. So a lot of students don't want to go to a smaller school because they're like, I want to go where everybody else is. I want to go to a more prestigious school. Well, is it better for you to be home for a little while, for you to get your study habits down before you go? And when you have all these temptations of going out and hanging out and partying and pleasure of fraternity or sorority, all those may not necessarily be good for a person. You got to make that decision. Also, is this a school that's preparing you well for medicine? That's what you got to think about. So,
every day that you come into work, do you enjoy what you do?
I enjoy everything. I number one, I like being who I am. Mm-hmm. Right now, I am a black man in a predominantly black hospital, but we're integrated here, but at our Northlake campus, and I'm the only black male doctor here. Mm-hmm. We have one black female. So I like when patients see me who identify with me. They like seeing me. So it makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. And I've had the flip side where some black patients thought I was inadequate because I was a black doctor. That hurt me more than a white person seeing me and thinking that I'm not good. Because there's somebody who looks like me thinking that I wasn't where I'm supposed to be, not knowing that I graduated the only black male out of 35 residents at NYU. So people don't know what they don't know. Yeah. And so I like what I do. I like being able to spread knowledge to people. And I'm nice to people. I'm kind. I show them I care about them. And it brings me joy to take care of them when they come in the ER. If you get out of your bed to go to an emergency department, you are scared because you're thinking you're about to die. Mm. And everybody's emergency is their emergency. And so I treat everybody the same way. I let them know, hey, I'm concerned about you. I want to make sure you're going to do okay. And I try to, make jokes. I try to, joke with them and try to, have fun with them. But at the same time, I try to give them knowledge about what's going on as well. A lot of the primary care docs don't give patients knowledge. A lot of patients come here, they don't even know why they're on certain medicines. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we have to be their emergency doctor, but also their primary care doctor and explain stuff. So it's an opportunity to change your life. Mm-hmm. So I always like that opportunity.
How do you build rapport with your patients?
Being nice, friendly, and sincere. Mm-hmm. I'll ask people their name. How are you? I tell them who I am. I'll sit down sometimes if I have time and talk to them and see them eye to eye. Plus, it also makes them feel that I spent more time with them if I sit down and talk to them. I'll touch them and say, hey, you're going to be okay. I do stuff like that. Not invasive, not trying to, get a lawsuit for something like sexual harassment. But little simple gestures, people, it can go a long way with people. I don't care if you're black, white, Puerto Rican. I'm treating everybody the same. So that helps in being friendly and nice. As an ER, you have to be that way because you don't have time to sit down for an hour and talk, hey, how's your family and all that. We're in there, what are you here for mainly? And this is what I'm going to do. And they got to trust that I'm going to do the right stuff. There are times I got to do a pelvic exam or, do an exam on their genital areas. And so you got to be able to get their trust. I'm always going to have someone there with me as a chaperone. So you never want to get to a situation where somebody can blame you for something that didn't happen. So I'm going to always think about these things before I do them.
Mm-hmm. How do you handle uncertainty with a patient?
I'm not sure what you mean by uncertainty, but someone comes in with an emergency that I'm not sure about. I'm going to always read stuff. I'll go and pull up stuff. I'll look up stuff on the internet as well. Sometimes I don't know what the situation and what caused it. I'm honest with them. Ma'am, you just heard me say it today. I can't say why you have that pain in your back. Mm. All I know is the test I did all looked normal. It's not an emergency, nothing that's going to kill you. At this point, all you can do is take the pain medicine and hope that it won't come back. And then if it does come back, we'll have you follow with these particular doctors to get further workup. There's only so much we can do in the ER. Mm-hmm. Our job is to not let someone go out that can die from us not thinking about what it could be.
Yeah.
So we tend to have a wide differential diagnosis, meaning a wide list of clues of what it could be. It's like a research project. You have your hypothesis in terms of, well, could it be this? Could it be that? You do your test, then you get your conclusions. Then now, once you get your results, you can make your conclusion. And now you go with that. I've narrowed it down. I did a CAT scan. You don't have a bleed on your brain. You just have a headache. And you tender over your sinuses. So you probably got a sinus headache. Oh yeah, Dr. McGee, you're right. A year ago, the doc did say I had a sinus problem. And when the season changes, I do get sinus hay fever. So yeah, you're right. So people don't tend to remember things. So we have to be their detective and figure it out for them by asking certain questions. That's why we have certain questions that we always have to ask. And you got to know the right question in order to get the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I like how transparent you are with your patients, because a lot of times they don't tell you, this is what I'm thinking, this is what it could be, and stuff like that. Even shadowing you, I get to see that you do, this is what I'm thinking, I'm ordering a test to see if this is what it is. And then when you come back, you're like, yeah, this is what it is.
Or this is what it's not.
Yeah.
So some people want something to be wrong, but trust me, when something's really wrong, you don't want to be on the end of that.
Yeah.
I tell people that. They're like, oh, what? I've been having this pain for 2 weeks and you tell me there's nothing wrong? I was like, sir, trust me. If your head CT is negative, you think I want to be telling you, hey, you got a tumor that now you got like maybe 2 months to live? I've been in those situations. You don't ever want to be on that end. I like telling people that no news is good news. Now, I understand you want to know what it is, but sometimes not knowing is better than knowing. So now you come in and now, you've been having all this weight loss, and I find out that you have, uterine cancer that's been hidden in a fibroid like my mom, and now you're going to die. That changed your whole world. Yeah. Whereas you just losing weight because you're working out more and you got an ulcer. Mm-hmm. That's why you're losing weight. So now you can get past that. Yeah. So I try to tell patients, and also when it comes to ordering those tests, I'm letting them know what I'm doing. I'm giving them my plan. Mm-hmm. So hey, you're going to be getting this test done. You're going to be here for a little bit longer. So that's what's going on. This is why I'm getting the test. And people usually like that. So now I have good customer service scores. Right now, being a doctor is like a business. They monitor you in terms of how well your patients perceive you and how well they like you. And you should know that doctors who are not well liked get sued the most and the quickest. So if you're rude to a patient, now you're wrong about what your diagnosis is, and now they have some bad outcome, they ready to sue you and get all the money. But if you were nice to them and now you say, hey, you know what, I'm not sure what it was, but you should follow up with somebody. And then it comes back that, it was something bad. Well, you tried and you referred them to someone else. Yeah. So now there's no reason. But if you was like arrogant, oh, no, it wasn't this, I'm not going to get a CAT scan. And now they go out and now they got a brain tumor. Yeah, you might as well be able to write a check, write a big check. So I try to be open and honest, like you said.
Mm-hmm. How do you break bad news, like the tumor story?
I'll be honest. I'm honest, and I sit down and I tell them, hey, we did these exams, and your exam is coming back showing something of concern. It shows that you could have a possible, brain tumor or uterine cancer, and we need to do more tests. Mm-hmm. So I kind of ease them into it. I may know for sure that that's what it is. I'm not going to be like, hey, you got uterine cancer, you're about to die. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, hey, look, this is something we need to do more tests. We do more evaluation. We want to bring you in and try to figure out what it is. But right now it's showing that this could be a uterine cancer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, even with that, when someone dies, which happens all the time, I go in, I tell the family, hey, I introduce myself. I find out, well, what happened? Say, well, I have to tell you this, but, Miss Kelly passed away. I give them a little time to cry or whatever. Then I say, we did everything we could. We did CPR for 20 minutes. There was no heart rate. At that point, we had reached a point where there's nothing else that we could do. Then I say, I don't know what it was that caused him to die. It could have been a heart attack. It could have been a clot. We're not sure. Do you have any questions for me that I need to answer? And we're direct and empathetic. Yeah, you show that you care.
How do you deal with the loss of a patient?
It's always hard to lose a patient, and different ones, it's harder than other. I've had 99-year-olds who I was sad about, passing away. I've had babies who especially hard because you got to deal with the family. There's no real way to overcome all of that. You just find out what your support system is, and if it's your family member, your girlfriend, boyfriend, if it's your parents, you go and talk to them. Sometimes doctors got to see psychologists as well and have mental health, connections. So that does happen. Sometimes you need a therapist yourself. So if it's to the point where it's that bad, you should seek a therapist. Now, at the hospital, we do have called AEP. This is just basically a program that will come in and talk to you and have you debrief. We've had babies that's been shot that we had to have the whole team get debriefed because everybody was torn up. So we have that luxury. But that's short term. Sometimes people need stuff long term. Having your own pastor, all that helps. Yeah.
Okay. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and anytime I try to ask, I kind of don't get a clear-cut answer. How is medical school set up, and especially when you match for your residency?
What do you mean you ask, you don't get an answer?
Like, it's like, oh, you do this year and a little bit of this. Like, what's like the specifics? What do you do in your first year versus your second year and your third year?
No, I mean, we can't answer because it's been so long. You got to ask the medical students who you've been hanging out with, because it's all changed now. And it's just like high school. Everything is set up a different way each year.
Yeah.
So we can't answer that question for you. We know the basics. You go through your first and second year, which are the sciences. Your third and fourth year, you rotate. Okay. And then you got to apply for a residency program, and you go and interview at multiple different programs. And the ones that you like the most, that you had the best feel for, you rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they like you, then they rank you 1, 2, and you guys got to meet in the middle. Mm-hmm. I got my first choice, which was NYU, because not only did I go there and visit, I stayed a couple days and went back and hung out with some of the residents. Then I went and talked to the residency director and said, hey, I really like this program. And so now, who are they going to remember? The guy who came through one day and interviewed and left, or the guy that came back and hung out with the residents, went in and said, hey, I'm Mike. I really like NYU. I want to be here. Yeah. Because they don't want to waste a slot. So they would choose between you and another person. If they put both you guys, or if they only had one slot, and a person who didn't show any interest, why would they rank them? I'm going to show, well, this young lady came back. She loved the place. Mm-hmm. She called me and bugged me a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to remember her. Right. So that's how you do it. Okay. You got to have the grades and all that other stuff. And usually all that stuff is the same across the board. But if you stand out more by presenting yourself in a good manner, then they're going to remember you. So.
What if when you rank the schools, they don't rank you back in the same order? Or
if they don't rank you back in the same order, then you won't go to that school.
But what if none of the schools do that?
Then you won't match.
So do you reapply again the next year, or?
Well, you can scramble for another slot. Mm-hmm. Like there may be some lesser schools, but why would you think about that now? I won't worry about that. If you do all you need to do in college and medical school, you're going to rank where you want to rank. Don't think about the negative aspect of that. You think about that only if that happens. But right now, you go in being positive and do what you need to set yourself up for success by starting with the right school and making all the right grades you need.
Mm-hmm. I'm just an overthinker. I just think.
No, sometimes overthinkers think too much and they add undue stress on themselves.
Yeah.
So y'all shouldn't do that. It's okay to have a contingency plan, but I wouldn't go in thinking, hey, what if I don't make it? Yeah. Because they want you as much as you want them. And now they need black people because there's less black people going into medicine. Mm-hmm. So, and you need to be thinking about Xavier for real, because now they're going to have a medical school that's there.
Okay.
And there are people who, even a young lady who was in the program, Mia, that's a good contact for you.
Okay.
So she went to Xavier. Talk to her about what she got out of that. Mm-hmm. Xavier turns out the most medical students in the country who are black.
You took the MCAT, right?
Everybody takes the MCAT.
I know some of the dual degree programs that are available now, like UMKC, they don't require you to take the MCAT.
But that's only if you go into that particular school.
I know.
Yeah, so I took the MCAT because I didn't want to be narrowed down to one school.
Okay. How did you prepare for that?
I took a prep course.
Okay.
Everybody got to take a prep course and be prepared and do a prep course and do over 500,000 questions, literally, to make sure you get at least 70% right. Because the more questions you do, the more you're going to see it on the test. Right. So then when you go, you're going to be like, oh, I know this answer already. That's how many questions I did. This is my third time taking it, though. First time, somebody just said, just go take it, which I should have never done. The second time, I tried to prepare for it, but then I was so nervous about it from this first time that I bombed it. Then the third time, I said, look, I'm not taking that test until I know what I'm taking. And I've done well on these questions. And I did all that. And 3 days before, I was, going to dinner and, relaxing and going to movies. Wasn't even thinking about it. So I slept well and I did really well.
Yeah. It's really an 8-hour test.
It's not 8 hours, but it's a long test.
Okay.
It's 8 hours if it takes you 8 hours. But if you know what you're doing, it's not 8 hours.
So it's a self-paced test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That clears some stuff up.
Because right now, I think once you reach your score, it shuts off. In the past, it would be you would keep going, and going. But it's different now. So I'm not sure how it is now.
Okay.
In the past, it was written, and so you're sitting there all day doing stuff. Now it's like boom, boom, boom. When I went to take my recert, where after 10 years you got a recertification, you basically go and you hitting boxes, and then it cuts off when you reach the right number and you passed it, and that's what it did for me.
What lessons have you learned along your journey that have stuck with you?
I learned a lot of lessons, but persistence is key, and having faith in yourself and optimism will take you a long way.
Oh, I've heard different opinions on this thing too, where they say it doesn't matter what school you go to, it matters what you do at that school. Is that really true, or does it?
What schools you go to where?
Like when you go to undergrad, they say it doesn't matter.
Oh, it matters what school you go to.
Or even like medical school, they say that too. But then I've heard the opposite end where they're like,
no, it matters what schools you go to, because if you went to a small school that was easy versus going to Harvard, they're going to put more weight in the person that went to Harvard because they went. If you go to a medium school that's well known for getting people into medical school, then you're going to have a better chance of getting into a medical school. Okay. So you got to be purposeful when you choose your schools. Don't go to a school just for the heck. If it's a small, general type of school that's not well known for getting people into medical school, why would they take somebody from Wabash College, or Illinois, State, when they can take somebody from U of I, who's where medical school is, and who we know the curriculum is much harder. Right. So you got to be careful when you apply into your undergrads, because they do carry more weight. Now, if you're the person that goes there and you bang out, you have straight A's, and then now you go to the MCAT and bang it out, then they be like, oh yeah, this person was exceptional, even though they went to a small school. So the MCAT is the equalizer.
Okay. Just how the SAT is to your grades now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Earlier you talked about you chose your profession because the hours that you work.
That's not why I chose my profession.
I know, but you said you like the lifestyle aspect of it besides liking everything in medicine.
The main reason why I chose the profession I chose because I like everything. I like taking care. I was good in everything I rotated through. OB, the docs, at Rush, they wanted me to go into OB. When I did pediatrics, they wanted me to do peds because I like kids and I did well. And I liked everything. When I went to surgery, I liked surgery. I actually was going to go into trauma surgery and did all my rotations in surgery. And I did one ER rotation and liked ER. And so I applied for both ER and surgery. And then after I went to my first interview for surgery, I canceled all the surgeries. Said I only want to do ER. And I chose ER because I like doing ER, but also I looked at my personality, looked at my master's in public health, looked at me wanting to do other stuff. And then that's why I chose that. Yeah, it wasn't just for the hours. Now the hours do help, but for me, it was more or less like an ER, like being, taking care of emergencies and having to think quick and making a difference in someone's life. Because the decision we make, if we don't diagnose the appendicitis, the general surgeon is not going to know it because they're not in the ER seeing these patients. They don't always know that a kid that's coming in with vomiting diarrhea is not the stomach flu. They may have appendicitis. We're the ones that figure that out for them. So, although we're with patients quick, if we don't make the right decision, they go out and they can get sick and die. So what we do is very important. But I like not having to carry a pager, and I can do my other stuff as well. So that's just an adjunct to what I like as to why I chose this field.
Mm-hmm. Did you not choose surgery because of that?
What I found out with surgery, I didn't like being in the operating room all day. Mm-hmm. And then I thought it'd be difficult to use my public health degree and do other stuff. And then, I didn't necessarily want to be on call every 3 days either. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do other stuff. So that's why I chose that. Mm-hmm. I didn't decide to do surgery.
So you just work your 12-hour shift and then you have your life to live.
Mm-hmm. Or however many shifts. It's not always 12 hours. Like right now it's 9 hours today. Mm-hmm. But at another hospital it's 12 hours.
Okay. What skills and traits make you a good doctor, and what traits and skills do you think make a person in general a good physician?
Altruism, truly caring about people, mm-hmm. Being open and honest, being thoughtful, and treating every patient as though they're your family member. Mm-hmm. So if you do that, you can't go wrong in medicine or whatever field you go into. Nursing, you treat everyone as though you really care about them. You're going to think about what it could be. You're going to not be mean to them or have implicit bias. And I tell every student that. You wouldn't want your mom or daughter being treated wrong, would you? If you're a white boy and now your mom went to a black man. So you should treat every person like you treat your mom or dad. Right. So if you tell them that, then they get it. If they have pain, you take care of their pain. Mm-hmm. Don't be concerned that, hey, this black person is black and now she's probably seeking pain meds. You take care of them as if it was your mother who was seeking pain meds. Right. So that's the biggest advice I can give anyone, and what I always give to my residents and medical students: treat everybody like they're a family member. Just show concern and compassion, and then take that extra step to read more.